You're listening to the British Baseball Podcast. Hello, baseball family. Matthew here again with another episode of the British Baseball Podcast, and I'm joined by the one and only Laura Hirai. Laura, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you today?
Yeah, very well. We've just been talking off air about coming down off the high that was the Manchester, not Manchester. We're talking about you moving up to Manchester.
That's
How
definitely
nice
yeah.
you're settling in, yeah. But also the G World
Mm.
Baseball Classic win, which was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, we can talk endlessly about that, just how big the achievements were and how proud they made us and the whole country, really. Everyone's recognizing it, so really impressive.
Yeah, it's been great to see the coverage on the news, and BBC giving it some exposure in some other countries too. Yeah, it's great stuff. But let's
Yeah.
talk about you. This is your spotlight. You have been on as a guest before, quite a while ago, but you were one of three at the time, and I think it's about time we gave you your own spotlight. So thank you for coming back onto the show. So for those that didn't hear that episode way back in series 1, why don't you introduce yourself and talk us through your history within baseball?
Sounds good. I've been playing baseball for at least half my life now, so 11 years. And all started when I played in Japan way back in 2006 when I was 6 years old. It's very popular over there in Japan, as we all know. And there's batting cages, there's always coverage on the telly, people playing catch, local clubs nearby. And it was about 2010 when I finally joined a club after playing catch with my dad and going to the batting center with him. And just about a year of training with this team, I really began to develop my love for the sport and really decided to push myself in that position. And then when I came back to the UK in 2011, I was very fortunate to keep playing with the London Mets. And from there, with some great coaching and great patience from the coaches and the whole team, really, I was able to keep playing and realizing that I was in a fortunate position to be a girl and still getting to play baseball when I know that's a very uncommon situation to be in for many people, especially in the US, where they tend to encourage women to play softball and direct them into that path. But yeah, here I am now getting to talk about myself. It's pretty weird, but I'd love to talk more.
Brilliant. Can't wait to hear someone. Was being involved in baseball at the age of 6 your earliest memories of baseball? Do you remember going and seeing any live games or anything?
So I was very lucky to live in Tokyo. So there's the Tokyo Giants and the Yakult Swallows, and their stadiums were very local to us. And it was a very frequent affair to go and watch those games and cheer on the teams. Back then, I think it was more about the energy and the ambience of those stadiums rather than like knowing the rules or like what's going on, but just being part of that whole community of like everyone wanting to celebrate the sport and everyone enjoying the hype of it all. I think that's what really encouraged me to you know have that curiosity to take part in the sport and be part of the community.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, was there any other sports that were available to you at that time, or were you just like straight into baseball?
I played a lot of football at that time, and that was the other sport that I was playing simultaneously to baseball. But I think once I came back to the UK, especially, it was the sport that I fell into and the sport that I wanted to do when I came back. And fortunately, there were clubs around, and there was competitive sport, competitive baseball at least, which was great.
And did you get a lot of backing from your parents in your baseball journey?
Definitely. I mean, without them, I wouldn't have achieved the standard that I am right today. Back in 2009, so the early stages of my baseball career, I actually went to the US. I went and joined a Nike baseball camp in LA, which was affiliated with the University of California, Nevada, and they hosted a Nike baseball camp. And actually, I couldn't join at first because it was only for boys. However, my dad was the one that persisted and said, "Look, like, yes, she might be a girl, but let her give her a shot." And they said, "Okay, fine." I went to the camp, and they were really impressed with the skills that I had in that moment and the potential I had. And it's quite funny actually because the coaches that were there at that time, I'm still in touch with today, and they're the ones that continue to encourage me and continue to push me as well. And they saw that potential with me back then. I'm so grateful that they're still part of my journey today.
Have they been more receptive than to females approaching to trainers? It's still like a boys only thing.
Um, I'm not sure. I feel like Nike baseball now, I hope at least, is more open to female participation. At least, especially at that age, when you're 9, it's hard to distinguish between a boy and a
Mm,
girl. But for me, it was a very interesting experience. I didn't see the gender gap. I didn't see the gender divide back then. I just saw baseball, and that's all
yeah,
I wanted to do. Um, so obviously those things going on behind the scenes that my dad was trying to deal with, I didn't know about until I was much older, that I was able to be in that position. And I got to play baseball. And I got to be coached by elite coaches in the US. So I was very grateful now that my dad pushed for that and I got elite coaching at that time.
that's brilliant. Were the kids then like, how did they react to like you said you didn't notice any difference? Did they react any differently around you, or were they really welcoming?
I remember there was again a little bit of separation, and there was also separation in level. So at the camp there was like a people who were better and those who probably need a bit more development. But I think the boys, when I joined the higher level, were quite surprised that I was with them, seeing my petite size and everything. But I think everyone, once they noticed the potential that I had, realized that I could compete at that level and I could get the coaching and I deserved the coaching that I got. I think again, you can look at someone and you can judge them, but it's a lot about not just what they can do in that moment, but the potential that they have. And I think that's what they started to see, is that I had potential.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you then find yourself playing baseball in the UK?
Right. So the reason why we came back from Japan to the UK was because of the earthquake. It was a very sudden transition in lifestyle, very quick, moving from Japan back to London. And I needed I needed some comfort, and baseball was my comfort. And luckily, we did some research. We found the London Met was very close by to us, and I signed up to the club. They had some youth levels, and from there, just kept on going. We played games on the weekends. We had trainings on the weekdays, and I got the best coaching from Eric Hansen and Pietro Celeste. They were they were the driving forces of the Mets at that time, and they developed all the players back then. I learned everything pretty much from those two coaches,
Yeah,
and we got to face amazing competition both nationally and internationally, especially at the club championships, the European club championships, and also league as well. And without their support, I wouldn't be the player that I am today, because
yeah,
they really pushed us. They really drilled in a lot of drills, and everything that I know now is because of them.
yeah. Those two names always pop up when I speak to people associated with London baseball and the Mets.
Right.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
should get them on the show soon and
Oh, for
let you
sure.
like
Yeah.
give all the questions over. You mentioned
Definitely.
as well, like how's it being the only girl then playing baseball with boys again, and you also end up getting GB trials where you're the only female there too. What was that like?
So yes, I was the only girl at least the under 16 national trials. And again, at that time, I still didn't see myself as the only girl. I still saw myself as a competitor like everyone else trying to compete for a spot. Um, Everyone knows that they deserve to be there. So you work hard, everyone puts in the effort, and I put in my own effort. Everyone else put in their own effort. And in the end, the coaches trusted me, they believed in me. And I think, it takes a whole team to be successful. And I was very lucky that there was a whole team that supported me. And by having such a great team, both in a roster and both backing me as well, like my family and friends, it really makes a difference. And I think going back to the World Baseball Classic qualifiers, you see it takes a whole team to succeed, and
Yeah,
a lot of time and effort and patience. And that's what I was able to experience as well.
yeah, fantastic. You had some really good highlights as well playing for the Mets. So I talk us through some of those.
Oh, I have so many highlights, and I'm sure previous Mets who have been on your show as well have mentioned some of them. But being part of the European under 14 European club championships in the finals for that, and just missing out on winning, going to the US was a very exciting game. I mean, being that close it hurts. But getting to say that we made it with the team that we had, being just a bunch of local kids, was definitely something to be proud of. And especially with the Little League finals as well, being part of the, coming second is again tough, but those are the things that make you stronger and make you want more and make you hungrier
Yeah.
to succeed. And I remember those games we used to put mustaches on our faces and play
Yeah.
against the Germans, and I'm sure you get that story all the time, but it just made the sport even more fun than it really was. And when you make it fun, you just have more fun and you succeed and you want to keep playing. That's why I'm still playing to this day. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be here if it wasn't fun.
Yeah. And you went off to college in America, you studies, and you also
Yes.
played a bit of softball out there as well. What are some of your biggest takeaways
Yeah.
from your time in the States?
I think really I saw the massive difference between the standards and training effort, facilities, levels in between the US and the UK. And it really just put perspective into how lucky I was to be in the US, to have access to the coaches and the facilities that I had. So really privileged. I was lucky that I got to meet elite players and coaches in the US. And now I'm able to kind of bring that back and at least share the stories and share the lessons that I learned over there back in the UK. So I'm trying to make the most of everything that I learned and bring it back.
Yeah. And since going back to the UK, you got involved in the WBUK season. How did that go for you? Well, I know how
Right.
that went for you, but I'll let you
Yeah.
tell everyone else.
Right. So I was able to play a few games, some friendlies, and one official game with the Bristol Bobcats. And just being able to play with women. Wow, I never thought that there would even be a league um, of just female baseball players. Of course, I had fun playing with boys, and it's a whole nother way of playing. I mean, boys are bigger naturally, but just like how when I was a pitcher in baseball, playing against, the likes of Germans and the Dutch and the Puerto Ricans who are absolute giants. When you compare that style of play um, to playing with women, you have to kind of think differently. It's a whole different way of playing baseball. It's a whole different essentially. Um, so, for example, when I was playing baseball with boys, I had to really like hone in on my technique because I didn't have speed. So I really focused on working on my curveball, working on my breaking balls, keeping them unbalanced. Similarly with, I guess, playing with females, in the women's baseball league, it was more about trying to keep them unbalanced as well. But they are more familiar with that speed of a slow pitch, just trying to keep them balanced in different ways. It's a different thought process, and it just makes the game a bit more complex and expansive.
Cool. And how did you get involved? Who did you reach out to get yourself onto a team?
I mean, the women's baseball league is all thanks to Doris, but there's definitely other people who have been part of the whole community to spread the word, to spread the game really. And I want to give a shout out to Jess Vernon for starting the Bells baseball team. I think people like her are the reason why we're able to grow the sport, especially on the women's side. And I admire her a lot because of the success that she's had in trying to allow more access for women's participation. And again, it takes a village. It's not just her. It's the team that wanted to join and be part of the Bells. There's the other people that wanted to help develop that team as well as the coaches as well. So yeah, just really every woman that's part of the league, I think deserves a shout out for this.
Yeah, you mentioned Doris as well. How important has Doris been to you?
Oh, huge amounts. I met her for the first time, I think, way back in like 2017, 2018, when we organized myself and Luke Stott the first women's baseball game in the UK. We managed to gather a few women. And then from there, just being able to see the progress that Doris has made. It's with her that we have a league. It's with her that we have a women's baseball national team that's been able to compete at the European Baseball Championships. I think that insane progress is all credit to her, really.
Yeah, yeah, she's top person. A lot of time for Doris. I think she's a fantastic
Yeah,
person, a great ambassador of the sport in this country.
yeah.
So you mentioned about that game there, the first game in 2017. What are your memories of that? Can you tell us about who was involved in it, or any scores, that sort of thing?
I feel like it wasn't just, I think it wasn't about the score in the end. It was about the fact that we were able to gather at least 18 players to have two full teams, one all-star team and one university team of female players, and just having that environment and dynamic of just having women share that field at Farnham Park really just changed the sport, and I think opened everyone's eyes to the potential of women's baseball and allowing more access for women, whether it's playing in a co-ed team, so allowing more women to play in baseball teams, or as the fact that we have now a women's baseball league. It just opens the door for women to have access to the sport that we all love.
Yeah, definitely. You've also done a lot of stuff to promote baseball in schools as well, and you've been a guest speaker at local schools. How did you get involved, and what sort of things did you talk about with the kids?
Right. So I think with this aspect, it's all thanks to the sponsors. So when I was being sponsored for the sports that I was playing, so with baseball and softball, it gave me opportunity to give back. And I was able to go to local schools, and I talked about the journey that I took in it. I didn't want to talk for too long, but I had to kind of almost, because it's a long journey to be successful and reach the highest levels. You can't just get there and, assume that you have talent, you just make it. You have to persist, you have to work hard, and it takes a long time. And it's not just yourself individually, you have to work hard and also get the support that you need to succeed, and have people that support you and trust you, and they will also want you to succeed. So I really just honed in on the fact that it's not easy to be where I'm standing now. It wasn't easy. I'm lucky now that I get to share that story and be the person I am today, but it was not easy.
No. So, what age group were you talking to?
It was primary school children.
Primary school, brilliant. Did they ask you any really weird questions? Because I've got a 5-year-old and he asks me all sorts of weird questions all the time, and I love it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, why do you play with boys? Or do you like playing with boys? That thing. And obviously, yes, I like playing with boys because the competition is pretty tough. I like to show off the fact that, yes, I can strike out a guy. It feels good to strike out a guy, and for them to feel like, oh, okay, this is a woman, like, oh, I need to actually work hard now because she's just struck me out. It's that mentality of trying to break down those gender barriers. I
Yeah,
think when you're a little kid, you don't realize those gender barriers exist, and they continue on into adulthood.
yeah,
But
yeah.
hopefully, once you teach them at a young age that there is, there's a positive change, hopefully, involved as they start to kind of think more about themselves and the people around them.
Yeah. Did any of the younger women react to seeing how? Because if I think that would have been really inspiring if I was a young girl and I saw you talking positively about competing with every boys. How did they react to it?
I wish I got more of a reaction. It was more just, open mouths and kind of staring at me. And I hope there was someone I touched, and I hope that there was at least one person out there, one girl at least, that kind of listened and understood what I was trying to say and share with them. And
Hmm.
obviously, I don't know, that was a while ago, but I hope that there was a positive change and that they kind of changed their mentality. And I hope they're successful now in whatever they're doing.
Yeah, hopefully, definitely that'd be a great story.
Yeah.
Especially we all have a good inspirational baseball story. But even back over here in 2019, you continue to smash down walls and break barriers. When you were the ball girl working for the Yankees at the London series, we touched on it briefly in last appearance. But do you want to go into that in a bit more
Mhm.
detail?
Of course, I am so lucky to have been in that position, to be almost that 10th player on the field for the Yankees, essentially, getting to wear that uniform out there and being the only woman, I think, on the field at that time. And there was other people involved. We had to work in the clubhouse. There was a bunch of us working for the Yankees and obviously for the Red Sox. But sharing that field and being like, wow, I don't know if I belong here, but also trying to think I do belong here. I realized that I I stood for something more. I wasn't just a ball girl. I was the first ball girl for the New York Yankees. And
Exactly.
I think when people realized that, they were like, okay, this is a change. This is development. And the reason why there hadn't been any other previous female ball girls for the Yankees was that they didn't have changing rooms or lockers in the Yankee Stadium for women. And for that exact reason, they said, no, we can't have ball girls. And because in the London Stadium, at least Olympic Stadium, they had facilities that allowed me to get changed with the Yankees. I was able to be out there and make history, I guess.
That's amazing. Have you had people reach out to you about that? Because, like I said, then you were the first female ball girl for the Yankees. Um, like, what sort of reaction have you had to that?
It certainly opened a lot of doors for me, actually. I think obviously you get the odd comments like, oh, what's she doing there? Why is a girl on the field? But in terms of other comments, especially on Twitter, when some video kind of went viral for it, of me throwing a ball with Brett Gardner, um, I think people realized that, okay, this is cool. Like, there's a girl out there. Um, why not? Why not a girl out there? She should shine. She should sign for the Mets or other teams and whatnot. But I'm not the only female who has broken down barriers in baseball. There's been so many others across the pond in the US, in the UK as well, and also in Australia and beyond. Um, so as much as I might have made, history in the sense of being a ball girl for the
Hmm.
Yankees, there's been so many other women who have done a lot more in trying to get female recognition in the sport.
Yeah. You mentioned about receiving a bit of negative press. Like, how do you handle those sort of things? Do you just ignore it, or do you like just bin it off? Because I know when I come under criticism, I get really over and let's go about it, and it can weigh on me. So I can't imagine what it'd be like on receiving that on a larger scale.
Well, thanks to baseball, really, my mentality is strong. I have a strong mentality now, thanks to baseball.
Hmm.
We all know that baseball is a sport of failure. You fail, 7 out of 10 times, and you can still be called a Hall of Famer when it comes to hitting. Even currently Judge right now, he's what hitting
Yeah, yeah.
high like 300 average at least, and that means he's still failing at least 7 times or 6, 7 times. And you need to have that strong mentality where yes, there are going to be those tough times. Yes, there are going to be those negative backlashes and people who are going to question your abilities. But those key moments where you do succeed, those 1, 2, 3 times where you do succeed, those are the most important things. And you keep holding on to the positives. You don't look back on the negatives. And I think that's why I have so much drive right now to keep doing what I'm doing, to keep being successful and keep working hard. It's because I focus on the good things and the good behaviors and the good important things that I can control at least.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, that's been insightful. You're giving off a lot of positive role model vibes, which I suppose is really helpful because, like, back when you were in the States as well, you were the international youth ambassador for the IWBC, which, if you don't know, it's the International Women's Baseball Centre. I know you know what it is, but for listeners, and there you got to meet original members of the Women's Pro Baseball League from the 40s and 50s. Can you tell us a bit more about that side?
Right. So it was a really unexpected message, actually. I just finished my GCSEs and they got a message from the IWBC asking if I wanted to be this youth ambassador and come to the US to be a representative. And I was like, oh, wow, of course. I'd love to experience that and kind of be whatever you wanted me to be. And I came in and came to was it Pennsylvania, Reading, Pennsylvania with my grandmother as a chaperone. And we met all these people that I wasn't expecting to meet. I met Shelley Berkovich, Mabel Blair, the original players
Yeah, yeah.
from 40s, 50s, and amazing. It was so insightful, so powerful. Um, you don't get to meet these people normally, and I was able to interact with them, have dinner with them, have really important
Oh
conversations
wow.
that I will cherish forever. It was mind blowing, and there were other people there like trying to make documentaries at the time. Monet Davis, who used to be, a big name in women's baseball, she was also present, and being surrounded by that community was so powerful. And I was so lucky to be there in that moment and be a representative and be a role model for the little kids that we were offering baseball camps to.
That's amazing. Are you able to share any of the stories and conversations you had with these players?
Yeah, so I remember asking Shirley, um, just the most general question. I said, "Oh, what was it like playing back then?" And she said, "Life was so much better." And I think that's what I really kept from that conversation. That was it. Life was so much better. And it's because she got to do what she wanted to do. She loved playing baseball, and the world at that time offered her the chance to play professional baseball. And obviously, it's a goal currently across the world for women to become, or for women's baseball to become a professional sport, just like men's baseball. And we might be taking a few steps back now, but compared to back then, but we've made so much progress in so many areas of the game, and there's so much more female participation, both in the coaching role and the playing role. And I think hopefully, I don't know if in her lifetime she's already 95 and strong,
Hmm.
but hopefully we'll see even more progress, and hopefully she'll be able to see it soon. We know that recently the Amazon Prime show Legal Their Own came out, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
also got a lot of recognition, and people have been watching that and seeing that that professional league existed, 80 odd years ago. So hopefully the same will happen again soon, where we'll have a league and it'll be televised live rather than having a show, a fictionalized show.
yeah, definitely. And the whole a very good podcast. I find quite a lot of the players on. You had Mary Bell Blair on recently, and she was talking about all the
Mm.
differences and stuff back then. And she was also saying it's interesting how you said before about not having any changing rooms in the Yankees, but you've been able to do it over here because of the
Mm-hmm.
facilities. And also mentioned about the differences, not being as powerful or strong. And she was saying like, don't need to be. We just want our own league. But also, why can't women look at Perry Barber? Why can't women be more women umpires? Size and
Yeah.
physicality doesn't mean anything there. Get
Mm-hmm.
them involved, and maybe that could be the way to help grow the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's possible. There's people out there really trying to push the boat, so it's definitely possible.
Yeah. Did any of them have any questions for you?
A lot of questions was how did a female Brit, end up in this position? I get that a lot.
Yeah.
And again, it's just how lucky I was to meet the right people, to experience the right things, to be in the right position at the right time. I have to thank all the coaches. I give a shout out to Pietro and Eric. There's also Will, Liam, Rob Rance, Zach Refser, the whole staff back then. It was just all those people really trusting me and really pushing me as well. They didn't just say, okay, yeah, she's a girl, she's unique, she can, we can be relaxed with her. No, they pushed me like all the others did. They pushed me like all the other boys. I worked hard, and now I can look back and say that I was proud of myself and that I earned that position to be where I was.
Definitely. 100%. Definitely. So also while you were in the States, you were a keynote speaker at the IWBC and also the SABR. For those who don't know, it's the Society of American Baseball Research, and that was their annual women's baseball conference. So what did you talk about and who was there?
So I talked about, I guess, myself. That's the easiest thing to do. But that's what they wanted me to do. They wanted to hear my story, and I was fortunate that I got to speak to the whole community. It was open to anyone who wanted to listen to other stories like myself. Um, and there was the other person who was a keynote speaker was a lady who traveled to all the baseball stadiums in the US, the professional ones, and her time sitting in those stadiums and her experiences eating the food and hearing the voices and the noises that she heard from the other guys, for example. I thought that was a very interesting story, but at
Yeah,
least for myself, it was talking about what I'm talking about today, really.
yeah, that's interesting. I read a book. It was Reading the Game, which was a podcast by a couple of British lads who read baseball books, and they had Stacey May Fowles on, who did a book called Baseball Life Advice,
Hmm.
and it was like a lot of her experiences just
Hmm.
going to the ball game on her own, that sort of thing, and it was really eye opening and quite some horrific stories in
Hmm.
it, but also some really good stories in it too. If you can get a copy of that, I'd
Yeah,
recommend it. It's really interesting.
for
With
sure.
meeting all these inspirational people, what's been some of the best like takeaways that you've had from them?
Just the power of women, the collectiveness of being strong women and sharing a space together. It's really mind blowing that the potential and the power that we have when we have a group of women that can support one another and have a common goal that we all want to achieve. Um, especially being in that conference. There were obviously men as well, but when you have like-minded women who want the same thing, it's a whole nother experience, a whole nother feeling. For example, playing at the European Baseball Championships this summer with the women's national team,
Yeah.
that was so powerful. That was so strong. I mean, I was lucky, to compare that experience to playing with the under 16s and under 19s, or sorry, under 18s men's national team. And it's just so different. I feel like we almost understand each other a bit better. There's a bit more community and understanding and privilege as well. Obviously, all those things also run on the men's team as well. But I think I everyone I think understands that you're lucky to be playing women's baseball. It's currently a fort, an honor, a privilege, and not everyone gets the chance to do that still.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Speaking to Carlos not too long ago, Carlos Senior, about the having to whittle down the roster from so many people taking part in the open days and stuff. Well, you have been part of a lot of that as well. And what a great segue to get into the Montpellier tournament in France in 2022. For those listening to it historically, I don't know that word is, I meant historically. So what are your memories around this historic occasion? I mean, you had some really good games and you were involved in quite a few historic moments yourself. Can you take us through the on and off field best bits, and I suppose we could talk about the low bits as well?
Right, so as soon as we got on the plane, we knew we were making history. Even before we got on the plane, to be honest, once we were at the airport and we were all gathered together, we knew that this was a history-making team, and that no matter what happens, we were already making history. And I think that we were very proud in that moment to have that in our back pockets, really. But we weren't just there to make history by being there, by being present. We wanted to make history by winning games and winning the tournament. As we all know, the outcome wasn't what we wanted, and that was to win. But we take the little things and we build from that. So winning the first game against the Czechs, that was amazing. We worked hard and we really showed them, and from the get-go, that we had that potential to win. Obviously, in the other games, we couldn't, cross that line of winning and figuring that out. But I am honestly proud of that team and what we could achieve. And the thing about these kind of competitions and these rosters is that it's never going to be the same. So you have to make the most of that one moment, that one chance that we get. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And there's all kinds of factors that come into that. But the one thing that we can control is our attitude and our effort. And I personally felt like I did that, and I hope that at least I hope most of the team as well also did that as well, because we all should be proud of ourselves at that tournament.
Definitely 100%. I think the numbers from viewing on YouTube just show the support that was behind the whole squad. I mean, that first game was absolutely phenomenal. Did you ever think it was going to go off like it did?
Honestly, no. We had no expectations. We wanted to go out there and show what we could do in that moment and be 100% in that moment and see where that took us. And fortunately, that took us all the way to a mercy rule, which I was not expecting. But I'm so proud, really proud of the team, and really proud of the backing and the support that we had all across the world, really, and from local people from other teams, other programs within GB as well. Really appreciated that.
Yeah, but how do you prepare before each game? Are you like a quiet person, or are you quite boisterous, or do you just have your headphones in?
I'm very quiet. I listen to the same song on repeat and try and get into that like pattern and routine of just like listening to the same thing, kind of pacing myself, getting to the same rhythm. And then once I'm in that rhythm, I'm ready. I'm ready to crush it.
Yeah. Does the song change each time, or is it, do you have your one go-to track?
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed.
Recently it's been the same song. It's been Pushing P by Gunna.
Right.
But I have to thank that song for getting me through that tournament.
Yeah. I have no idea who that is. I'm an old person, so my favorite music is podcast. So so after that huge victory over the Czech Republic, the rest of the tournament didn't go quite so well. How did you end up dealing with the lows of those defeats, and how did you pick yourself back up again?
It's always tough looking back on those games, knowing that we could have won. I mean, any difference, any slight change could have really taken the game in another direction. But again, there's no point dwelling on the past, and now all we can think about is what we can do in the future, what we can learn from those things that we could work on and things that we can change. There's definitely things that I can change personally, and there's things that we can change as a team on how we can improve in those situations, in all kinds of aspects, mentally, physically, as players, as staff as well. So luckily, we have a couple more years to work on everything until we face the Europeans again. So we will have a job to do, and we're going to show that we can stand up on that stage again and this time win it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're only going to get better from where you are. It was so impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all really proud of it, and even watching with a little boy. And as soon as we watched any of the games, he's like wanted to play baseball. So it's nice. The girls are getting inspired. He just wanted to
That's
get
great.
the bat out of the shed and get his glove on. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, very, very proud of you. Who do you
Yeah.
think brought the most to the team?
So I don't think I can single out one person who brought out the most on the national team. It's not just one person, especially in those situations where we're all being lucky to be selected for the women's national baseball team. Not everyone gets that privilege. I think we all knew the position that we were in to be representing our country and be wearing that jersey. So I think everyone is a leader on that team. Everyone is a teammate on that team. Everyone had a role, and I think everyone fulfilled it in that moment. And we all did our jobs as players, and that's all we can do in that moment. So I thank everyone on that team for being the players that they were, and we just have to learn from our mistakes, move on.
Exactly. As we come towards the end of the conversation, just one or two more before we head off. Who would make your Mount Rushmore of British baseball? So that's four influential or key players that have made the biggest impact on you.
Obviously, I will be biased because they're the people that have personally influenced me and inspired me, and I'm going to pick two women and two men. I think that'll be fair from women's baseball and men's baseball. So I've already given all these people shout outs, but for women's baseball, be Doris Hawking, for her contributions to really kickstarting the national team and the women's baseball league and the participation. And from that as well, Jess Vernon, I think, her past as well with her uncle with starting Bracknell baseball and to her also starting Bell's baseball. I think that really grew the game and really grew the sport nationally. And without them, those two, I don't think baseball will be as big as it is right now. And in terms of men's baseball, I have to give Pietro Celeste a huge shout out. I still message him every day,
Yeah,
this day, talking about baseball, talking about mechanics, what I can work on. It's just a constant conversation with him of constantly trying to improve the game and improve myself. It's ongoing. There's always something to make better, and he's always there. He's always criticizing me. He's always giving me feedback, and I love it. He's awesome. And also have to give big shout out to Will Linton as well. He really taught me as well to not just look after myself, but look after the team and trust myself and trust the team and know that everyone's backing you. And he backed me all the way. He taught me a lot about baseball, and he, grew up playing locally as well. I think it's when you are surrounded by people who understand your background and understand the journey that it took, those are the kind of people that you want to keep close. And I've been grateful that I've gone to stay in touch with him as well for a very long time and learn from him as well.
yeah, some great nominations, some great shout outs. I cannot disagree with a single name on that list. Brilliant stuff. And it is tradition, Laura, for the guests to have the final word. So the mic is all yours. Any shout outs you want to give or any big ups you want to do?
Yeah, the biggest shout out ever to the national baseball team that just won the WBC qualifiers. I mean, what you guys did out there is amazing, and we're all backing you. And you guys knew that you were going to win it. We all knew that from the get-go, how you guys just kept on coming back, even when you were at least 4 runs down, still finding a way to get back and, chip away at every little thing and work hard and persist and never giving up. That's the kind of belief that we want on a team, and that's the kind of belief we want individually, and that's what we want both on the field in baseball and off the field. And I think having that mentality, that strong mentality, is so important in life and something that I'm taking away from the sport and from that tournament. So big shout out to Drew and the staff and the whole team, and wishing them all the best in March.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Those games are phenomenal. Watching them, it was edge of the seat. And as soon as the French went down, like you said, like, you know, they played Germany before, the big teams. You know, there's some out there that are no nonsense, saying no prisoners.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely cleaned the floor with them. And even John was saying on Backflipping Nerds in their latest episode, like even when they were down to Spain, he was like 8-4. He was just like, they're not getting beat. And he's right. You could see him clawing away at it, just clawing away at it.
Yeah.
It was amazing to watch. And it's, you know, again, like people saying, you learn about a lot about life through baseball. And when you are down, you're never out. You just got to keep working hard at it and pushing through. Oh, a phenomenal game. Oh, stronger than coffee. It was just so good. I didn't sleep that night. It was just mental. Like, I find it really
everyone's
hard.
on it.
Yeah, I find it really hard to be patriotic when you look at other sports. And I find it like really odd to feel like British, because I don't think there's a lot to be proud of, like especially in today's climate, without getting all political and stuff. But when I'm watching Great Britain baseball, I'm just right behind it. I'm all invested in him. They're my team. They're the it just makes me feel proud. And then like football happens and all the rest of it. And well, that's for a different podcast. You've done like so much in such a short period of time. Like, what's next for you?
That's a good question, honestly. I feel like I'm always on the move. I'm always doing something, and I'm currently starting a new adventure in Manchester with a new job, and that's opened new doors for me. I'm playing football now again, but I know there's plenty of opportunity to play baseball up north and see what the sport's like up here. So I'll hopefully continue to inspire and continue to learn from the players around me and the people around me, and see where the game takes me. Really, that's all I've been doing, just riding that baseball wave. And here I am, and we'll see what happens.
Well, thank you very much again for your time. This has been fantastic to catch up, and again, some really brilliant and inspirational stories. So Laura, where can we find you if people want to reach out and get some life advice and guidance and share their stories with you?
Yeah, please. I mean, thank you so much for having me, and it's always great listening to your podcast and hearing other stories as well. Everything's inspiring, and what you do as well, giving us the platform to talk about our stories as well, is a great opportunity. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Right, well, it's goodbye for me. It's goodbye from you, and I hope now that you're up in Manchester, we get to see you out on the muddy fields of Wythenshawe. It's going to be an eye opener for you. It's nothing like London's.
Bring it on.
Ground. You'll love it.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Excellent. I'll see you soon.